Hello, dear friends. I will be sharing with you an experience of a sister. If you have listened to Michael Jackson music, watch Paul Walker's video, then stay to the end to fully understand this experience. My name is Shumli. And before I begin, I want to make something clear. I'm not here to cause any misunderstandings or stir up controversy. I'm simply sharing my experience, hoping it might bring comfort or hope to someone who needs it. This is my story, and it's as real to me as the air we breathe. From as far back as I can remember, I've been in love with Michael Jackson's music. His voice, his dance moves, his message, it all resonated with me. I would listen to his songs on repeat, trying to mimic his dance routines, feeling like his music understood me in a way no one else did. There was something about his presence that made me feel connected, even though I knew I'd never meet him. Then there was Paul Walker. I admired him, not just because he was a talented actor, but because of the kind of person he seemed to be: kind, humble, and deeply passionate about the causes he believed in. My experience wasn't easy, and it took me to a place I never imagined I'd go, including a place I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. So, as I share this with you, I hope you'll listen with an open heart. Growing up, I always struggled with self-worth. I never felt like I truly belonged anywhere, like I was always just one step away from being invisible. I was raised in a Christian household. My parents did their best to instill good values in me, teaching me about God's love and the importance of living a righteous life. But even with all that, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something, that I wasn't enough. As I got older, that sense of emptiness only grew stronger. I started as itching for ways to fill the void inside me, to find some kind of purpose that would give my life meaning. I tried to focus whenever, but the more I tried, the more I felt disconnected, whenever just going through the motions without really believing any of it. It wasn't long before I started drifting away from the teachings of my childhood. The church felt like a place of judgment rather than a sanctuary, and I began to resent the expectations placed on me. I wanted to be free, to live life on my own terms, and that's when I found myself drawn to a different world, the world of nightclubs and easy money. At first, it was just a way to make some extra cash. The thrill of the nightlife, the music, the attention, I told myself it was harmless fun, just a way to get by. But before long, it became more than that. Dancing in those clubs gave me a sense of power and control that I didn't have in my everyday life. For the first time, I felt like I was seen, like I mattered. The money was good, and it was easy to justify it to myself. I was just doing what I had to do to survive. But deep down, I knew I was losing a part of myself. The guilt holds at me, especially when I thought about my upbringing, the values my parents had tried so hard to teach me. I knew I was drifting further and further away from the person I was supposed to be, but I didn't know how to stop. It was like I was caught in a cycle I couldn't break, chasing after something that would never truly satisfy me. My life took a darker turn when I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. It wasn't something that happened overnight, but rather a slow descent into a pit I didn't even realize I was digging for myself. The friends I surrounded myself with weren't bad people, but they were lost in their own ways, and instead of lifting each other up, we dragged each other down. It was all about partying, living in the moment, and escaping reality. We thought we were invincible, that nothing could touch us, but in truth, we were all just trying to hide from our own pain. The more I got involved with them, the more I felt like I was losing control of my life. The fun and excitement of our wild nights out started to fade, leaving behind a hollow feeling that I couldn't shake. That's when the thoughts started, the whispers in my mind telling me that I wasn't good enough, that I was a failure, that the world would be better off without me. I tried to ignore them at first, but they only grew louder and more persistent, until it felt like they were the only thoughts I had. I remember the first time I seriously considered ending it all. I was alone in my room, drowning in a sea of despair, and the idea of just disappearing felt like a relief. I didn't want to die, not really, but I couldn't see a way out of the darkness that had swallowed me whole. I felt trapped in my own mind, and the only way out seemed to be through death. I made several attempts, but something always held me back, a faint voice inside me, a shred of hope that maybe, just maybe, things could get better. But the spirit of suicide didn't let go easily. It clung to me, haunting my every waking moment, filling my mind with thoughts of worthlessness and hopelessness. It was like a shadow that followed me everywhere I went, reminding me of all the ways I had failed, all the reasons why I didn't deserve to live. Even when I turned to God for help, the darkness didn't lift. I prayed, I begged, but the depression still hung over me like a heavy cloud. I was living a life that I knew was wrong, yet part of me still clung to the idea that maybe I could find my way back. But every time I tried to reach out, it felt like the door was slammed shut, like God had given up on me because I had strayed too far. The fear that I had lost my chance at redemption added another layer to my torment, leaving me more confused and hopeless than ever. One of the hardest battles I faced was the constant tug-of-war between my love for God and my love for the world. Deep down, I knew the truth, I knew who God was, and I knew what He expected of me. My upbringing had given me a solid foundation of faith, and there were moments when I felt that connection to God so strongly, like a warmth in my soul that nothing else could replicate. But as much as I loved God, I couldn't seem to let go of the things that kept me tied to the world. The thrill of the nightlife, the attention, the money, it was all so tempting, so addictive. It made me feel alive in a way that nothing else did. I knew it was wrong, that I was compromising my faith, but I kept telling myself that I could balance both, that I could have it all. The truth, though, was that I was constantly torn between these two worlds. On one hand, I wanted to live a life that honored God, to be the person I was raised to be. On the other hand, I craved the excitement and freedom that came with living on the edge, even if it meant turning my back on everything I believed in. On the November 29th, it was supposed to be just another night. But that night, something felt different. There was an unease that I couldn't shake, a sense that something wasn't quite right. I tried to ignore it, brushing it off as just another bad feeling, but it lingered in the back of my mind. The party went on until the early hours. By the time it ended, it was well past midnight, and I knew I should have gone straight home. But I stayed for a while, chatting with some friends. Finally, around 1 a.m., I decided to leave. The streets were quiet as I made my way home. I was alone, but that wasn't unusual. I had walked these streets many times before, always aware of my surroundings but never really afraid. But that night, every sound seemed louder, every shadow darker, and that unease from earlier in the night came rushing back. A group of men who had been lurking in the shadows. I didn't see them at first. They came out of nowhere. My heart raced as they surrounded me, their intentions clear from the way they moved, the looks in their eyes. I was terrified, but I fought back, trying to break free to get away. The struggle was intense, chaotic, and in the midst of it, I felt a sharp pain, a gunshot, around my abdominal region. Everything happened so fast. One moment I was fighting for my life, and the next, I was on the ground, blood pooling beneath me, my body growing cold. The world around me started to fade, the sounds growing distant, and all I could think was that this was how it was going to end. I had heard about attacks like this happening in the area, but I never thought it would happen to me. As I lay there, everything started to go dark, and I felt myself slipping away. As the world around me faded, I found myself hovering above the scene, looking down at my own body lying there on the cold pavement. It was a surreal, out-of-body experience, seeing myself from above, the life draining out of me, the blood spreading. There was no pain, no fear, just a strange sense of detachment, as if I was watching a movie rather than witnessing the end of my own life. I wanted to reach out, to somehow reconnect with my body, but I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Then, without warning, everything changed. The world around me seemed to collapse, and I was no longer floating above my body. Instead, I was falling fast and hard, through a darkness so thick it felt like it was pressing in on me from all sides. There was no light, no warmth, only a suffocating void that pulled me deeper and deeper. The next thing I knew, I was no longer falling, but standing in a place that felt like the very essence of despair. It was a realm of darkness and terror, a place I instantly knew was hell. I could hear the agonizing screams of countless souls. I was in hell, a place I had always feared but never truly believed I would see. And I saw demons. They were monstrous, with limbs that seemed too long or too short, covered in scales and scars. Their faces were covered with rage and hatred. There was nothing human about them, nothing that resembled the world I had known. They were beings of pure evil, and their presence filled me with a dread so deep, I could barely breathe. These demons were everywhere, tormenting the souls that were trapped there. I saw them dragging people through the flames, tearing at their flesh with cruel, jagged claws, and laughing as the souls screamed in agony. The sound was unbearable. In the distance, I saw a vast lake of fire, a seething, boiling mass of flames that seemed to stretch on forever. The souls within it were writhing in pain, their bodies consumed by the fire but never burning away. They were caught in a cycle of constant torment, trying desperately to escape the flames, but there was no way out. The fire would consume them, only for them to be pulled back in over and over again. In hell, there was no love, no compassion, no hope. The very essence of the place was despair, and it filled every corner, every shadow. The souls there were consumed by their own pain, focused only on their survival, though there was no escape from the torment. It was as if all sense of time had been stripped away, leaving only an endless, looping moment of suffering. There was no past, no future, only the eternal now, a single second that repeated itself endlessly, with no end in sight. Everywhere I looked, there were souls in agony, each lost in their own personal torment. But then, amidst the chaos, I saw faces of famous individuals. It was a jarring, heartbreaking sight to see them here, reduced to mere shadows of their former selves. The first figure I recognized was Michael Jackson. He was barely recognizable, his body twisted in ways that were both horrifying and pitiful. His skin charred and blackened by the fire that surrounded him. He was being tormented by a massive, hulking demon who seemed to take particular pleasure in his suffering. All Michael kept saying was, "I'm sorry. Please have mercy. I won't deceive again. I'll serve Jesus, just give me another chance," he cried out, his voice filled with a hopelessness. Over and over, he repeated the same pleas. "I need the children to forgive me. I didn't mean to mislead them. Please forgive me." But there was no mercy to be found in this place. The demon continued its merciless assault, ignoring his cries, and Michael's pleas faded into the background as I was drawn further into the darkness. Not far from where Michael Jackson was suffering, I came across another soul. It was Adolf Hitler. The sight of him sent no shock to me, for I have heard of his terrible acts. He was being tormented in a way that seemed to match the horrors he had inflicted on so many during his lifetime. His body was trapped in an endless cycle of burning and regeneration, his flesh melting away only to be restored so that the process could begin anew. He kept on saying these words. "I won't do it again. I won't spread hate, I won't bring death, I swear it," he cried out. "Give me another chance, and I'll make it right. I'll undo the wrongs, I'll serve Jesus, just let me out of this hell." But his confessions fell on deaf ears, and his torment continued unabated, the flames devouring him again and again, his agony unending. As I was pulled further into this horrifying place, I saw another familiar face, Paul Walker. He was bound in chains, his body suspended over a pit of fire, the flames licking at his feet, his face twisted in pain. His torment was different, more subdued but no less excruciating. He was caught in a cycle of regret, his mind replaying the moments of his life where he had turned away from the opportunity to embrace Jesus Christ. He kept saying these words, "I didn't know. I didn't realize. Please, give me another chance. If I could just go back. I'd accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. I'd turn away from the world and follow him. Please, just one more chance, just one more, he kept repeating this plead. But in hell, second chances didn't exist. His pleas, like those of the others, were swallowed by the flames, lost in the endless void of despair. Suddenly everything shifted. The unbearable heat, the screams, the overwhelming presence of evil, all of it vanished in an instant. I was no longer in hell. I was back on the ground where it all began. The transition was so abrupt, it felt like being yanked out of a nightmare, but the nightmare was real, and it lingered in the back of my mind, vivid and terrifying. My eyes fluttered open, and I was immediately greeted by the blinding flash of emergency lights and the urgent shouts of voices all around me. I was alive, but barely. I heard the frantic orders of medical personnel as they worked to stabilize me, their hands moving quickly to stop the bleeding, their faces tense with concentration. I could see the red and blue lights of police vehicles reflecting off the nearby buildings, and the realization hit me: I had been saved, brought back from the brink of death, but not by any earthly means. As they lifted me onto the stretcher, everything around me seemed surreal, like I was watching it all from a distance. My mind was still reeling from what I had seen, what I had experienced. The images of hell, the suffering, the torment, they were seared into my memory, more real than anything I had ever known. The cries of Michael Jackson, the desperate pleas of Adolf Hitler, the sorrowful regrets of Paul Walker, they echoed in my mind, refusing to fade away. As I lay there, surrounded by the chaos of the scene, I couldn't help but reflect on the experience I had just gone through. It wasn't just a nightmare or a hallucination, it was a warning, a glimpse into a reality I had never truly believed in until that moment. I had been given a second chance, pulled back from the very brink of eternal damnation, and I knew that I could never go back to the life I had been living. I had been spared, but it wasn't just for my sake. There was a reason I was brought back, and I knew that reason was to share what I had seen, to warn others, to give them the chance to turn back before it was too late. My hope is that my story will inspire others to take a step back and reflect on their lives, to reassess their choices and their priorities. I hope it brings a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper connection to God, a realization that we are all given a chance to turn away from the path of destruction and embrace a life filled with grace and redemption. To anyone who hears this story, know that it is not too late to change, to seek forgiveness, to find peace. The love and mercy of God are always within reach, no matter how far we may have strayed. My experience is a testament to that truth, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is hope and redemption waiting for us. May my journey bring you comfort and hope, and may it encourage you to seek the light and truth that can only be found in a relationship with God. We are all given the chance to make a difference in our own lives and in the lives of others. I pray that my story serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of that chance and the profound impact it can have. This brings us to the end of today's experience. Kindly like and share this video with your friends and family. Also subscribe to our channel to continue to get updated whenever we post experiences sent to us.